Welcome to another episode of the Assemble Performance Podcast. This podcast is here to help you live life to the fullest. I believe that when approached intentionally, physical challenges can build the strength and confidence you need to create a bigger and better life. That's why on this podcast, we don't just talk about training and nutrition. We dive into mindset, goal setting, behavior change, and living with purpose. So strap in. This episode is going to be a good one. In today's episode, we're going to discuss what hybrid training is, why it's taken the internet by storm, and why I believe it's truly the future of training. To start off, hybrid training is a term that was coined by Alex Viada in about 2015 in his book, The Hybrid Athlete. And here is his definition of hybrid training before we get into all of the nuance and everything about that. Alex says, hybrid training is, and I quote, the concurrent training of different athletic disciplines that do not explicitly support one another and whose disparate components are not essential to success at any one sport. This would be things like powerlifting and running, not strength training to support a sport like strength training for football or track or something else like that. Broadly, though, nowadays, as the years have progressed, we're about 10 years out from his book, and he has a new one launching this summer, but we're about 10 years out from his first book. Most people use the term now to define any strength and endurance training at the same time. I don't mind this. I'm not a purist of the definition. Really, honestly, anything to get people doing both, I am a proponent of. So hybrid training generally, High Rocks is really big now. You see people doing triathlons and strength training, maybe doing a strength event, powerlifting and doing a running event. It's pretty popular. Why has it become popular? If you're even new to this and maybe this is the first piece of content, long form content you're ingesting on hybrid training, or maybe you've ingested a little bit of YouTube or whatever, why is it popular? What really is it? Well, we've just described what it is, but more in detail, what is it and why is it popular? I have some thoughts on why it's become popular over the last few years. It's really exploded. 4 different things that I really think influence this. First, I would say larger influencers picking it up in the last 5 to 6 years. They've done this for various reasons, depending on the influencer. And I'm also, if I was to say exactly why this person picked it up, I think that would be a lot of projection on my part. I can't know why they've done things unless they've spoken about it. But I think a lot of running influencers were getting big, and bodybuilding influencers decided that they could capitalize on that market some. They already had a lot of lean muscle mass, and so they could pick up running and still strength train and look pretty good while doing it and pick up on some of that market share of the running influencers. I also think CrossFit had been a thing for a while. It was really big in the early 2010s. But the newer wave of fitness influencers and just people in general wanted to have their own mark and their own play on the strength and endurance training. So running getting big, CrossFit had been a thing, but now we kind of needed something new. I would also add that the second reason that hybrid training may have become really popular these last few years is that people realized you could do both. Now, people have said this for a while. CrossFit's been doing this for a while. But the research has been catching up on this because people have done more research as they've seen anecdotal evidence of people being able to do both pretty well. And again, those larger influencers were really showcasing that it is possible to do both through their own events that they've done. And that was huge for showing people that it's possible. You see somebody on YouTube or whatever do an Ironman and a powerlifting meet, and all of a sudden it becomes very real that it's possible to do both. Another thing that's become very popular online is extreme endurance events on top of staying strong. People doing, again, triathlons, ultramarathons. Fergus Crawley was pretty popular. He did his 1200-12. So he did a 1,200 pound powerlifting total at a sub 12-hour Ironman at the same time. I think these events really made it popular that you could do both, and you could do both at a pretty high level. Not world-class elite, but pretty close, honestly. You could do things that would be well above average, well into advanced on their own, and you could do them together. The third thing is kind of downstream from this. I think, hybrid events like High Rocks or Spartan races have become more popular. Spartan races have been around for a while. CrossFit has been around for a while, but they've become so much more popular, I think, these hybrid events over the last few years, with High Rocks really taking the internet by storm over the last couple of years. And then lastly, I think that performance goals have become more mainstream because of the influencers and coaches that have been talking about it over and over again for a long time. People care about how they look, they care about their aesthetics, but they also really care about their performance now. And hybrid does a good job of both. You train for performance, you get really good aesthetics, you look good. So all these four things are kind of my thoughts of why I see the industry has shifted to hybrid training over the last 5-6 years, and really heavily the last few years. But really, where is hybrid training now? It used to be at the beginning only for people that would be considered as extreme athletes, like an ultra runner who also strength trains, advanced powerlifters or bodybuilders who also run half or full marathons. These were more extreme approaches to both strength and endurance. And like I said, these were really I think the thing that showed people it was possible, and you didn't have to make as many trade-offs as people think. But the only people really training that way were people who considered themselves to be pretty advanced and serious, whether they were actually very experienced extreme athletes or people who were getting started again and wanted to one day be able to do like an Ironman and a powerlifting meet in the same day or something like that. However, the last few years, it's becoming a lot more popular, and hybrid events are also becoming a lot more accessible, are becoming a lot more accessible to the everyday person, and it's much more approachable for the general population. So we're starting to see hybrid training marketed a lot more to general population, marketed as a lot more accessible, which I think is great for a lot of the reasons we'll discuss on the upsides of hybrid training, because I'm really passionate about it. And while I do work with extreme endurance athletes, I also work with tactical military athletes, and then I really work with a lot of Gen Pop athletes as well, who want to be healthy, live their full lives, and just have a good time. If you didn't catch my episode last week on training to say yes more often to build confidence, capability, and the ability to say yes and live a full life, you should really listen to that. I went all in on that one. I got emotional a few times, especially at the end of the episode. Really profound, really awesome episode. And that goes over a lot of the reasons why I love coaching and why I really love working with athletes of all ranges, from the general population athlete, tactical athlete, the extreme athlete. It's a really good episode. I would recommend you listen to that. But long story short, we're starting to see it become more accessible now. So not only is it the advanced athletes, but it's also the general population people and the people who would consider themselves to be overall just into fitness for fun. They're jumping into things like high rocks and obstacle course races, and they're just lifting and running at the same time and having a good time. And I think it's really good for the world as a whole, for people's health, and also for fitness industry and just people's fitness as a whole. Now I want to talk about the downsides of hybrid training before we get into the upsides and how to start, because I want to basically call out the elephant in the room on the downsides or potential downsides. Really, I only see one downside to hybrid training as a coach and athlete myself. And I'm not pushing things behind a curtain, right? I think these things are important to speak about, and I think I need to be honest with you about the downsides, because otherwise you're not getting the full picture. And a lot of people, they're trying to market to you and sell to you, and so they aren't going to talk about the downsides. I want to talk about this one downside that I think really does exist, and when it applies and when it doesn't. And I think this downside really only exists for very serious athletes or elite athletes, and it's going to be potentially slower progress in both disciplines that you decide to do. So for example, we'll use strength and running. You're probably going to see slower progress in strength and running because you're doing two at the same time, and you only have a limited ability to recover and time to train. So naturally, you're going to see a little bit slower progress in both. Now, again, I say this only exists for the very serious or elite athletes, and it's because most people aren't able to train enough to hit those levels. And even then, for the elite athletes, it's going to be a lot of time limit or recovery limit. So This is two examples where traditional strength and conditioning will help, whereas the traditional hybrid training could be counterproductive for the elite or serious athlete. Traditional strength and endurance, as we kind of talked about before, is where you're training for a sport, whereas hybrid training is training strength and endurance at the same time, and the strength and endurance don't inherently support each other. Whereas like a football athlete would train for strength because it helps their performance on the field. So for example, two examples where a traditional strength and conditioning program would be better than a hybrid program would be a runner, very serious or elite runner, who does a running specific strength program, not a hybrid strength program, a strength program specifically for running and that's it. Or a powerlifter or a bodybuilder who is really serious about those and maybe even elite, who does cardio to help their calorie burn, help their body composition and recovery between lifts, but they're not doing anything. They're not signing up for races. They're probably not even running, honestly, probably doing alternate cardio, treadmill, elliptical, Stairmaster, things like that. Now, I don't want to get too caught up in semantics of strength and conditioning versus hybrid training, because at the end of the day, strength training while doing some endurance work is going to be so impactful for your health and just life enjoyment that I don't want to gatekeep hybrid, because if you want to train hybrid, I think you should, and I don't think we should get caught up on the semantics of what is and isn't hybrid. So anyways, that's the one downside I see to hybrid training, is that potentially if you're very serious, advanced, or elite, it may slow your progress in one or the other. It may just take you a little bit more time to get where you want to be. But even then, the studies show that like strength training for a runner can help your running economy and speed given the same running program. So even then, it's very nuanced, and I don't think you should get too caught up on this. If you're an athlete that's going to be impacted by this, you probably have people in your corner, you have coaches, you have facilities, and you probably don't need to take advice from me. You probably have coaches. And if you feel the need to take advice from me, then maybe you should find a new coach. But that said, now the upsides of hybrid training. I have 4 upsides, and they're in no particular order other than what I thought of them as far as, when I thought of them planning this podcast out. I'm going to list them all, and then we'll go into the details. The first one is going to be improved performance in both disciplines, which may seem counterproductive given the last thing I said, but we'll get into it. More enjoyment overall, a feeling of being more capable in day-to-day life, like feeling stronger and more cardiovascularly healthy or efficient. We're going to get into that. And better health outcomes. So first, improved performance in both disciplines. I already kind of touched on this, but research does show better sport performance when you're healthier and more fit overall. For runners specifically, a running strength program does improve your running economy and make you a better runner, improve your run times. Being stronger in the right things is going to make you a better runner and more injury resilient. And for a lifter or somebody who isn't very serious about running, being more cardiovascularly capable is going to help you live a better life, recover better between sets, handle higher reps better, overall be able to walk up the stairs and not be winded. So there is some carryover between this. The better in shape you are cardiovascularly, the more you can recover between lifts, the more work you can do. The stronger you are, the better your running economy is going to be, and the more injury resilient you're going to be as a runner. So they do work synergistically together. The second one is more enjoyment overall. This is very personal, but I talk to a lot of people, and I would say that this applies to so many people that I'm happy or comfortable making the generalization that training in multiple different ways for pretty much everybody or most people keeps training feeling fresh, and it makes sure you're able to do more things that you enjoy and change things up throughout life. And it depends how old you are, but we're going to train for another 30 to 60 plus years if our goal is to train for our whole lives. So we'd better make sure we're having fun doing it. It's a lot of time to do things you don't particularly enjoy. So hybrid training is going to allow you to change training up during different seasons of life when you might be interested in something else. I've done periods where I've very seriously trained for triathlon and maintained my strength. I've done periods where I've seriously trained for powerlifting and maintained my endurance. I just finished a period where I trained for a 50K and pushed my strength, hit a bench PR, all-time bench PR, 315 pounds while I was training for the 50K. Now I'm in a season of life where I'm maintaining my fitness while I work on growing my client load and being more present with my family. And so hybrid training gives you the flexibility and the freedom to live life and train in a way that fits with that season of life you're in, that you enjoy. I'm going to go through many seasons of life until I die. And I need to be able to change training up in the ways that are going to let me ebb and flow with the season of life I'm in, instead of trying to shove the way I trained when I was 22 into my season of life at 32, or fill in the blank, whatever, right? So to sum that up, more enjoyment overall, the ability to adapt training to your life season so that you can stay consistent, continue to train, and have fun, because we're going to train for a long time. The third thing is that feeling of being more capable in day-to-day life. Being both stronger and more capable cardiovascularly means you're never going to run into a situation where you're limited by your fitness. Now, I'll say that in a second. You never have to ask yourself if you can help a friend move or lift something, whether you can run around with your kid or niece or nephew, whether you can sprint up a hill with a friend, or whether you could carry a friend or a significant other back up the hill if they got injured, or carry them out of a burning house. You become the fit friend or family member who can literally do anything physically. You can run, you can lift, you're strong, you're fast, you can run for far for a long time. People start to ask you how you're so good at both things and how you're able to do what you do. You become the fit person that people can always rely on physically, that people always are kind of jealous of and ask how you do that. This topic, I just gave you 3 bullet points right there. This was the entire 45, whatever minute podcast I did last week. If you're, I said it before, but if you're passionate about this topic, please go listen to the other podcast. It was so good. I got emotional. I got really into it. I would really recommend it because it's huge. This is everything. And this is the most important part of coaching to me. I'm not going to rehash it because I did spend 40 minutes plus last week going over it. So good. Please listen to it. It will change your life. And I say that with confidence. And I'm very hesitant to speak in absolutes, but I really believe it will. And then the last thing is better health outcomes. So the leading causes of death are largely metabolic diseases. So I have the top 10 leading causes of death in 2022 in the United States here from the CDC. Heart disease, in order: heart disease, cancer, accidents, COVID-19, stroke, lower respiratory diseases, Alzheimer's, diabetes, kidney disease, and chronic liver disease and cirrhosis. Of those, 8 out of 10 are either directly or indirectly related to your metabolic health. Those are huge. We're talking about 702,000 deaths from heart disease, 608,000 from cancer, 165,000 from strokes, 120,000 from Alzheimer's, 101,000 from diabetes, 57,000 from kidney disease, and 54,000 from chronic liver disease and cirrhosis. The ones I listed off are either directly metabolic or indirectly metabolic or related to your lifestyle. Now, there's 2 things that make you metabolically healthy. If we're talking about being as healthy as possible: making more metabolically active tissue and making your current tissues more metabolically capable and efficient. Making more metabolically active tissue means making more lean muscle mass. Lean muscle mass is the primary place where glucose is used. If you have diabetes or know somebody who does, and you know how it works, it's a dysregulation of glucose, basically. Long story short, especially type 2 diabetes. Lean muscle mass is the primary place where glucose is used. Lean muscle mass also burns more calories and glucose at rest, but also during exercise. So a lot of people talk about how lean muscle mass burns more at rest so you can eat more. It does, but it doesn't burn that much more, honestly. It doesn't move the needle a ton. But during exercise, lean muscle mass, during walking, during lifting, during running, during playing with your kids, lean muscle mass is so much more metabolically active than fat. It burns a lot more calories. It uses a lot more glucose. This is why very muscular people can stay really lean even though they eat so much, because they literally burn so many calories just doing their activities of daily living, running, playing, compared to the same version of them who would do the same training program, live the same life, but have more body fat and less muscle mass. This metabolically active tissue is so protective against so many diseases. And that's not even to mention the strength component that helps you throughout your life with falls, with injuries, things like that. This is just the metabolism of it. And then we want to make that current tissue more metabolically capable and efficient. Make that lean muscle mass we have more efficient and capable. That happens through cardiovascular training, which is going to make your body better at burning glucose, burning fuel, recovering, clearing wastes, delivering nutrients and oxygen to your blood. It's going to create more capillaries where blood gets to your tissues. It's literally going to make you so much healthier as a human to have that tissue and then have it be very metabolically efficient, active, and healthy. I cannot state this enough. If you're a doctor or a medical professional, you understand what I'm saying. So important. Now, to add on to that, the strength component, like I just mentioned, 65 and older population, fall risk is huge. It was like 40,000 people in 2021 or 2022 died from falls that were 65 and older. Don't quote me on that. It was in my seminar I did a few weeks ago at the running store, but it was around that. It was double-digit thousands, over 20,000. It was a lot. Strength training improves proprioception, which is that kind of mind-muscle connection of where you're at in the world. It improves balance. It makes your bones more dense. Your bones are living tissue, even though we don't think of them as such, and they remodel based on stress. So lifting weights stresses them in a way that's going to make them more dense. This is going to drastically reduce the risk of falls and injuries when falls do happen to 65 and older, but also to everyday people. 65 and older is a population that the CDC thinks a lot about, but everyday people fall and get hurt and seriously injured. Strength training is going to help you with that. Now, all of this combines to make you the most resilient human possible through metabolic health, muscle strength, dense and strong bones, and improved balance, coordination, and that mind-muscle connection. The recommended minimum physical activity guidelines for strength and endurance training are actually pretty similar to a baseline minimum hybrid training program, which would be 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week, or 75 minutes of intense aerobic activity per week, along with 2 days of exercise that's strength training per week, around 30 minutes per session, so around an hour per week of strength training. That's pretty similar to a minimal hybrid program, and if that's not proof that a hybrid program is going to make you as healthy as possible, the CDC has made these for your health. So my recommendation there. And then lastly, how do we start, right? I've made the case for you that hybrid training is important, but how do you start? There's a lot of conflicting information out there on the internet, and I implore you, I beg of you not to fall for the gimmicks, because people are trying to market to you, they're trying to make money off of you. If you've been here for any amount of time, you understand that, yes, I'm a coach, yes, I make money coaching, but I do it because I want to help as many people as possible. Unfortunately, fortunately, whatever, money is needed to survive in our day and age, capitalism. And so, obviously, I make money coaching, but I didn't start coaching to make money. I started coaching because I care. And just know that I really care about you and your success, whether you come on as a client with me, whether you purchase one of my programs, or whether you just consume my free content and never pay me a penny. I want you to be successful. So please don't fall for the gimmicks online. Let me give you some examples of how to spot gimmicks online. I'm going to ask you what you do for work. What do you do for work? I have some examples here that might be relevant to you that you can then take for fitness. So finance, sales, construction, and mechanic. If you're one of those, or you know somebody that's like that, or you're familiar with one of these industries, I'm going to give some examples. In finance, some gimmicks might be day trading. Again, people make money day trading, but everyday people like me, I'm going to lose a ton of money day trading. No matter how much the YouTube bros promise me I can make millions of dollars on the next day trading scheme. Day trading, crypto hypes, credit card reward hacks, budget apps that do it all, and get rich quick schemes. None of these things are like horrible in themselves, but people put too much stock in these to make wealth. And if you're in finance, you understand this. What's the reality? You spend less than you earn. You automate investing in probably low-cost index funds. You avoid high-interest debt, and you stay consistent with that for a couple decades. That's the boring truth, not the gimmicks that people promise you can get rich in 90 days or whatever. With sales, you might see things online like this closing script is going to guarantee a yes. There's all these fancy CRMs, there's AI email generators, and there's all these overhyped persuasion tactics to sell somebody. When in the reality, what makes the most difference for sales is having consistent follow-up, understanding the product deeply and believing in it, active listening, human skills, and building trust with the leads. That's going to win in the long game, but that's not sexy. The gimmicks are sexy. This closing script is going to change your life. This AI email generator is going to change your life. Those are two white-collar examples. Some blue-collar examples, construction. Some of the gimmicks you might see in construction, these fancy new levels, these prefab plug-and-play systems, all these social media hacks, these miracle adhesives, and these all-in-one tools that are going to replace everything in your toolbox. When in reality, accurate measurements, knowing your materials, clean framing, being compliant with code, and having a reliable work ethic, that's what makes a difference. Again, not sexy, but it's what makes a difference. For a mechanic, my brother works on his car a lot, and I know a lot of mechanics. My brother-in-law is a motorcycle mechanic. Some gimmicks, these miracle engine cleaners, these fuel additives that are going to change your engine, these magic oil treatments, this new thing, whatever, right? When in reality, what makes a difference for your vehicle? Regular maintenance on time, taking correct diagnostics, using high-quality parts, going to a solid mechanic who's going to do the work correctly. Those things make a reliable vehicle, but those aren't exciting. Hybrid training is the same way as all of these. Hopefully one of these resonated with you enough for you to get an idea. Don't give into the hype. Consistently do the basics well over months and years, and that's going to guarantee you success. What are those basics, though, and what do you need to do over the long term? There's all this hype. How do I get started? This is where I'm going to offer you free thing, a cheap thing. Take the free thing, honestly, unless you really want the paid thing. Take the free thing. So below in the description, 4 weeks of free hybrid training for parents, busy professionals, or anyone with a constrained schedule, I put together 4 weeks of free training for those people. Strength and endurance training. It's pretty minimal, but it's what you need to see success and see progress. It's what you need. It comes with video trainings as well on how to make things work with your schedule and nutrition and all of these things. Click below. You can get that for completely free. There's no strings attached. You just have to go through the email journey of getting those videos as well, because it drips out to you over 4 weeks. That way you don't binge all the videos at once and not apply anything. So 4 weeks of free strength training, get that. If you were looking for something paid, there is Hybrid 101. It's 12 weeks of strength and endurance training. It's only $27 through the link below for 12 weeks. Pretty fucking good deal. There's 3 tracks. There's the complete beginner, there's the runner who's new to strength training, and the strength athlete who's new to running. So it's geared towards the newer hybrid athlete, whether you've never done anything before or whether you have trained one sport but not the other one very much. Hybrid 101's for you. People see great results with it. And again, I've got it on sale through the link below for just $27. Pretty much a steal. Might as well be fucking free, honestly. That's cheaper than taking 2 people to Starbucks, or cheaper than taking 2 people to Starbucks. So either way, free version, Hybrid 101, they're both there for you. The links are going to be below. That way you can see what this looks like, what's actually the boring basics that are going to make you progress, and what is hype. Because I don't do hype here. I do consistent long-term results. So in conclusion, whether you're chasing a new PR, trying to keep up with your kids, or just want to feel like the most capable version of yourself, I believe hybrid training is the future for all the reasons we've discussed. It's not about being super elite in one thing. It's about making sure you're ready for anything. You're strong, you're fast, you're resilient, and that's what this approach is going to give you. Just like in every other part of your life, the fundamentals matter way more than the fads. You don't need the trendiest training plan or the fanciest gear. You just need to do the right things consistently and have a good work ethic, or develop a good work ethic, because you can have a growth mindset and your habits and behaviors and how you are fluid and can change. If you're ready to get started, like I said, those links are below, free or very cheap paid. Thanks for listening. If you guys got value from this, definitely leave a rating and review. It lets me and the platforms know what episodes you enjoy, and they push it out to more people so we can give more people these free and very cheap options of results with no gimmicks. And if you haven't, subscribe so you can see future episodes, get notified. And remember, the work you do in training echoes into every area of your life. Keep showing up and pushing forward. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, please go back and listen to that, because I promise it is so impactful. It's such a good episode. And I will see you guys in the next episode of the Assemble Performance Podcast.